don't
I know.
do it.
Okay.
How many are supposed to be on tonight? I see.
So we had 5. This is Tim,
Hello, Tim.
and I think his wife, and then we had 3 or 4 more. Several are going to a dance, and I needed to record it.
For
The
them.
High Point guys having a dance tonight. So
And I just got back from my 4:30 meeting, so I'm going to take over for Tim using his iPad. This
Okay.
is Sharon.
Hey, Sharon. It's a nice picture of Tim.
I think it's his work email or his
Yeah.
work picture.
Yeah. Here's Allison Hawker. And we could go ahead and get started as soon as Joanna gets here. Hey, Allison.
Hey, sorry,
How
I
are
just
you?
drove to the Arc thinking that this was at the location.
Oh, I'm
getting
so
ready to go park somewhere.
sorry.
That's okay.
I'm
No
so
problem.
sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm in the dark. I'm in the car.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna
it's
go
dark
park
down
somewhere.
there. Oop, here we go. Yeah. I apologize. I should have sent out a reminder
No,
earlier.
that's okay.
Be careful. It's really bad out there.
Yeah, I'm just pulling into Carter Brother or whatever the barbecue place
Barbecue
is.
place.
Country
there.
barbecue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm parked now.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hi,
How are
Ann.
you?
Hey, Joanna.
Hey,
Hi,
I just lost
Joanna.
everybody.
Hello.
Hey, babe.
Joanna there?
Yes, but
Wonderful.
okay.
And they just said,
Here.
hey, Joanna,
Hey,
10 to 9.
I don't even know why.
He doesn't. She doesn't know what that means.
The score, Ravens beat the Broncos 10 to 9.
Oh, Ravens beat the Broncos. Yeah.
Why are you gonna be all negative, Steve? Come on.
Yeah, I mean just negative. I come in there like this, Beth, like happy hands, and he goes 10 to 9. Listen, I've been all told about my team. I probably didn't even watch that game. I've been so mad at my team. Oh God, I've been so mad. Oh.
So Stephanie's gonna be my Vanna, and Shawana, you jump in whenever. So I guess for those attending, just to kind of lay out who we are and kind of how we're coming about this topic. And Stephanie, I don't know if you were gonna.
I could do that just a little bit. So thank you guys for attending, and we have been doing these sessions because we were getting so many phone calls about transition to adulthood, and this by far is one of the most requested sessions. So I'm so excited to do it tonight. We are recording it December. You know, a lot of people have lots of stuff going on this month. So thank y'all for being here. And then we will have it recorded so you can go back and review it at any time. But thank y'all for being here tonight.
Thank you for doing it.
So I am Beth Mills. I am president of the ARC, the board of the ARC High Point. I was in the field for a long time. I'm no longer in the field. However, I'm still an advocate and an adjunct professor at High Point University. And my co-host, Joanna, if you want to give her an elevator speech, she was my first boss, first of all. So that's just fun.
So I am Joanna. I work for Compassionate Care, and I do a lot of advocacy work with different things. I am one of the board members as well with the ARC, and I'm also a board member with the Corporation of Guardianship, and I'm a board member with this, that, and the third. But you know, lots of stuff moving parts for me. I am a community navigator, which is pretty much an advocate for people with developmental disabilities and mental illness. And I've been doing this forever. One of my, things is guardianship. I, really put a lot of emphasis in making sure people's rights are being met and parents understand what they're doing with the process. So I'm gonna fill in the holes for Beth. She made this nice PowerPoint, and then like she just said, I'm her old boss, and I'm like looking at him like,
You're gonna tell me. Yeah.
I was like,
So Shawana, you give me some sort of sign, so I let you jump in. Stephanie, you as well. Shawana has a lot of experience on the guardianship side and going and helping parents navigate it and helping be a voice for those who want to maintain guardianship. From what I understand, help people realize their goals and dreams and be as independent as possible. I am coming from, I've been in the school side forever, training teachers and parents through that lens to understand what their rights are and how to help teach our students and young adults how to make decisions and how to consider some of these alternatives to guardianship that aren't as widely known and sometimes pushed or explored. So, all right, Vanna.
All right. Sorry, we had to admit one more person.
Okay.
So
If really quick that you guys will share, what does guardianship mean? What is your lens on that? What words do you think of? What are your thoughts on guardianship?
And we're small group tonight. Everybody jump in.
Or you can put it in the chat, but
yeah.
You don't want
I guess I would just think of it as like just having the rights to make the decision for my son because he's not able to make the decision.
Okay. Good. Yep. And there's no right or wrong. I just wanted to see what the lens was, what people thought or knew of with guardianship. Go ahead.
We did not choose that path because I'm not ready. From what I've learned, whatever, that it's very hard to undo if we ever want to undo it. So we're waiting to see. And there's other options. I'm her power of attorney. I'm her medical power of attorney.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that'll be enough.
And we're going to talk through all these different levels as well tonight. So anybody else want to share what you think of when you think of guardianship?
We don't really know what we're supposed to do and what there's different areas of guardianship, which is why we wanted to be on the meeting. Because our son's goal is to go to college, but there's lots of places we don't want to give up guardianship. So, but we were told he has to have guardianship in order to go. So that's why we're tuning in.
So that's just maybe that program that you're in, because the only thing that stops any individual from going to college with guardianship is the criteria of a specific program. So my understanding is beyond academics require you say that they shouldn't do that. I do think that is just not appropriate, but that's just a Chuana thing, because again, every other institution does not do that. I did a lot of research on whether or not I take away someone's guardianship, declare them incompetent, can they go to college? Well, they can. College has no requirement for that other than the fact that you pass every other standardized test. I got kids that are nonverbal that can pass a standardized test and do all the requirements to get in college. But that's just requirements for college. So that's basically that specific program.
And we'll talk about kind of some of the myths, some of the things to kind of debunk. And to Chuana's point, making sure you have good information in front of you when you make a decision. And there are some that might draw that line and others that don't. So,
right. Absolutely.
All right, Vanna. So terminology, I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page so we can go to the next. Just for Webster Dictionary definition, guardianship is a legal relationship in which a person or agency is appointed by the court to make decisions and act on behalf of a person who does not have adequate capacity to make such decisions. This could be for personal affairs, property, both. A court process is required to do this. All right.
Oops.
Award. So when we talk about, I'm going to give you a lot of research and statistics, and I am not going to be able to read every single line of every page on this PowerPoint, but some of it is repetitive. But when I say ward, or we use that term, it's individuals who have been determined to be incompetent. They are considered a ward, and they have someone appointed to make decisions for them. Another term you will hear thrown around, especially now, this is a huge push, is self-determination. And that is a freedom to make your own choices. And that is something we are pushing all through school. And to Chuana's point, the criteria beyond academics when they talk about them not wanting you to have someone else be your guardian, because their whole point of their program is self-determination. So if that's the foundation and curriculum of that program, it's kind of hard. You might not, if you can admit, I've got two candidates in front of me and one can make decisions for themselves and one can't, that might deter me from picking the one who can't legally make any decisions anyway. So just thinking about that. Tawana, if you have anything to say, chime in.
I just don't think that's their philosophy, but I mean, that's the philosophy that is portrayed, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, so understanding, we're going to talk historically really quick, just where we've been and then where we are. So like historically, full guardianship was the only consideration. That was kind of the end all be all, and that gave guardians power to make all decisions for somebody. And again, this is historical. As long as the law permits full guardianship, the court's going to prefer to use it because the others take a whole lot more time, effort, energy, money, etc. So I think I talk about this in the next slide, Stephanie. Yep. Well, I don't in this one, but I somewhere referenced the fact that if you go from different districts and different court systems, you will see a trend. You will see districts that only do full guardianship, and then you'll see some that are more with the times that really put a lot of time and consideration. And the problem with that is, just like in the school system, you shouldn't be able to jump a county and have more services versus not. We need to make sure things are more streamlined and parents understand their rights so that it's equivalent to everywhere you go, if that makes sense. That the same.
And to follow up behind that one, is that it's very much true. I do guardianship proceedings in all different counties, and some counties take nothing in consideration. They don't talk to families, they don't talk to clients, they look at them, and if you're sitting in a wheelchair, they just say, oh yeah, they need a guardian. I most all my individuals that have cerebral palsy, their cognitive level is just fine. They just they're in a wheelchair. So you get these perceptions and they get these myths, just like Beth said, that just automatically make people go in those directions. And the process are totally not well-rounded in different counties.
Yeah, so it's just something to be aware of. A guardian's role. So a surrogate decision maker, an advocate for an individual or the ward who has been determined to be incompetent, right? So we have a person that's put in power to make the decisions. They are responsible for the ward's care and comfort. They are in charge of the individual's living arrangements, any training, employment, medical and financial care. They should be supporting the decisions, hopes, dreams, and goals of the individual they are in charge of. Should being the right word. I try to emphasize that, should.
And, not all guardians are equal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's, yeah. Oops, sorry, I skipped ahead. Sorry, okay. I'm being a bad fan.
It's okay. So false assumptions based on the law. And this is something I do a whole training on sex education and kind of just kind of goes hand in hand, but absolute safety, this is a false assumption, is more important than decision making that could have a potential risk for an individual. Meaning that sometimes we put our family members who have intellectual or developmental disabilities in a situation where they never get to make any decisions, or we're so afraid they'll make a mistake, we don't let them assert their right to make a choice. And that's some of our most valuable lessons. We just have to pray it's not a bad enough decision that they can't recover from it. I have an 18-year-old child. Shawanda knew me when I was 18. I made a whole lot of terrible decisions, but I also learned a lot from them. And so, but no one tried to take away my right to make a decision based on.
I also use the same example that Beth used, and I use that in my training as well, is that I always ask parents when they turn 18, where are you going? Because we have to also teach our kids how to be adults. I don't go in places with my 18-year-old. The first thing they do, most time people say to me, I don't want them taking advantage of it. Well, guess what happens? As soon as my kid turns 18, the credit card company says credit card papers, because they want to take advantage of them. They know they're going to misuse them like everybody else does. So that everybody takes advantage of them too. So we have to teach them how to be adults, just like we have to teach our kids how to be adults.
Right, and make decisions. So we think not necessarily to consult the person under guardianship, so making decisions without them. If I have full guardianship, it's really easy to then just make the decisions for them instead of really taking the time to consult and talk through. I'm not saying this is all, I'm just saying these are some considerations. And institutional placements were preferable for a very long time over independent community integrated living. I think we've come far in this area. I do a lot of research and teach on this in my classes at High Point. So we have come far, but it wasn't always that way. Scroll back one time really quick.
Oh,
Steph.
sorry.
Okay, I had a quote and I
Yep.
can't remember.
Hey,
Okay.
girl.
When we mean the most well, I love this quote. When we mean the most well is when we have to be the most careful. Okay. And that's something that I believe the guy, Martinez, the lawyer that helped Jenny Hatch said.
Jonathan. Yeah.
Jonathan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
And I did this as, a lot of this I have to do real life every day. And I met with a family yesterday about the same thing about their living situation. And they sat there with me and they were pretty authoritarian. We did a lot of court with them. They were really mad at me when we got finished with guardianship court, kind of. But they said to me, they wanted to move him. And I said, I let her walk through everything that she needed to walk through yesterday. And I said to her, do he want to move? And she said, I said, did you even ask him, do he want to move? He's pretty high functioning. So you just go up, move him from the people he's been living with for the last 10 years. What do you think will happen? She said, I didn't think about that. But you're his guardian, so you're supposed to at least ask him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's just talk about things. You just don't move people without talking
to him first. Guardianship in North Carolina. So under North Carolina law, guardianship may be appropriate in limited circumstances where a guardian will afford the individual fuller capacity for exercising his or her rights. That's just wanted to put that in there. You can go. Okay. So research. People under guardianship can experience a significant negative impact on their physical and mental health, longevity, ability to function, and overall well-being. This is evidence-based. I mean, this is like research, this is information pulled. I am not saying this is all circumstances. I think people can be a full guardian and put into practice and allow the person that is the ward, the opportunity to make decisions and have a voice at the table. But that doesn't always happen. So we need to make sure that we have good processes in place. You go to the next. This blows my mind, but a typical ward has fewer rights than a typical convicted felon. By appointing a guardian, the court entrusts that someone else has the power to choose where they will live, what medical treatment they will get, and in rare cases, when they will die. It is, in one short sentence, the most punitive civil penalty that can be levied against an American citizen. When I think about that, these individuals who can make decisions. I have seen people that have intellectual capability, IQ, that would say they maybe can't make great decisions when given the opportunity. And I think that's a false assumption. And it's more about teaching them how to and giving them a circle of people to help them make those decisions, rather than just stripping them of the ability to do that. I mean, that was a kind of an eye-opening quote. You want to go to the next slide? Sorry, my dog's barking. Guardianship is never needed because of an IQ, because you're sick, because you need help, because that's the way it's always been, for your own good, or I just don't want anyone to take advantage of them. That is coming from a good place, right? But that shouldn't be the sole reason why you decide to be someone's guardian or to take, go through this process and take full guardianship. I give the example all the time, like, who doesn't need help? I still call, till my father passed away, I called my dad all the time for financial help. My mother still helps me all the time. That doesn't mean I'm incapable. It means I surround myself with experts around me that help me make decisions. And have I fallen on my face? Yes, but I've gotten up. So you can go to the next. Again, I'm not going to read all of these, but we know that limited guardianship, so what Tawana has kind of talked about, or we referenced power of attorney, those are underutilized, and it does vary from clerk and guardian ad litem, what their comfort level is. It is very hard to get multidisciplinary evaluations, which can be a part of this process or is a part of this process. So sometimes it's just not considered. Someone referenced this, removing a guardian is difficult. And there may not be anybody who's an alternative. Let's see. kind of has been a thing where once it's done, it's not revisited, which wasn't the way in which the law was designed. It was supposed to be something that was considered again in time and reviewed, and that's not usually what happens. And so that's a problem. To be someone's guardian, the guardian, they need to be trained, and that so that they know how to ask these questions, work with the person in which they're helping to make decisions or making decisions for.
Most of the time when I'm in court, that statement that's underlined is, this is not a custody battle. Most of the time I got a couple parents that's in there, and they're like, who's going to make that decision? And most of the time my biggest explaining to parents that you don't have custody of adults. As guardianship and custody are two different things.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think one of the biggest problems with guardianship is system-wide, school system, social workers, Sandhill Center, all of the systems really don't understand the gravity of becoming a ward. And it's almost just assumed that if you have an intellectual disability, that is what you should do. Tawana and I were talking about this today. That is where I hope that we're going to kind of turn that concept on its head a little bit tonight. We're not saying that it's not the right thing for everybody, because it can be, but we hope that we give you something to think about tonight, and to question and to just start asking some questions about this. One thing that North Carolina does not do as a state, they don't train guardians. And they don't train guardians on how to ask some of these questions. So we're going to give you a lot of tools tonight, which will be fun.
You can go to the next slide. So I like to pose, like, what is your favorite right? You know, what right, we don't have to share these out, but what is your favorite right as a citizen? And also, like, how many decisions have you made today? Probably a ton. You know, and just thinking about the spectrum of decisions we make from little to big, and what the rights that we have that make us an American, you know, if they were stripped all away from you, how would that feel? You can go to the next slide.
My favorite right is freedom of speech. So
yes. And are your rights really worth anything if you can't use them?
Absolutely.
This was a quote by a person with an intellectual disability. I believe I am my choices. I cannot not choose. If I do not choose, that is still a choice. If faced with the inevitable circumstances, we still choose how we are in those circumstances. So no matter what, there's choices to be made all day, every day. And so how are we preparing our family member, friend, whoever we're here for? Again, we know that people that have the ability to make choices are healthier, more independent, more well-adjusted, and able to recognize and resist abuse. That's a huge thing. Understanding that their voice matters, that their opinion matters, that they bring something to the table that helps to reduce the chance of them being abused sexually or taken advantage of in other ways.
And, you know, whether you are a guardian or you're a ward or not, teaching self-advocacy skills are so important. So, you know, whatever decision you make, still teaching them, you know, how to not be taken advantage of is really, really important.
And in the days we live in now, everybody can be taken advantage of, even us.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. So these are just some statistics that just support that last slide. I won't go over all these, but these are pulled from research and articles that have been done over time regarding self-determination and decision-making. The last one is what spawned my desire to learn more about sex education and how we're teaching people to self-advocate for themselves about my body, my rights kind of thing. But overall mental health, overall well-being, all of that is impacted by the decision to make decisions. So you can go to the.
We're going to send you the PowerPoint out afterwards, so you don't have to take notes or anything.
So people with intellectual disabilities that do not have a guardian are more likely to. So I just showed you all like the doom and gloom, right? About, well, not doom and gloom, but kind of the negative impact when someone has no rights or their voice is not heard at the table, whatever that looks like. On the flip side, when people have some of their rights still intact, they are more likely to have a job, live independently, have friends other than staff and family, which is important, go on dates and socialize in the community, and practice the religion of their choice. So these are all, I mean, that's all. I would love that for my son who's 18. Those are great goals. Those are good, like adjusted adult goals. I check a couple of those, but go ahead. So where do we go from here? If we know that some people need support as they grow due to their disability, okay, true. Guardianship can result in decreased quality of life and increased self-determination, meaning the ability to make choices leads to a better quality of life. Then we need to find a way to increase self-determination and provide support, whatever that looks like. If my child can handle just having a medical power of attorney and make all the other decisions on their own, great. If my child needs a couple more steps in between, and then my friend has a child that does need someone to have full guardianship for a variety of reasons, all fine. Just make sure you're not picking one because you're not aware of the other, or you haven't had a chance to get around the table with some of the professionals that work with your family member or loved one to help you make the best decision you can, or make it out of fear. Like, oh, what if they make a bad decision? Like, that's what I'm hoping you'll take away from all this. You can go to the next slide. So Jenny Hatch, I'm trying to think, do you think we have time, right, Steph? You think we have time? Okay.
Yeah, we do. You want to do the first one?
Yeah. It's a great story. I'm going to mute myself. I don't hear the volume. It's not coming through your speakers, is it, Steph?
Yeah, I can hear it, but y'all for some reason cannot.
No.
So
you want me to share?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Yes, you want to try?
Yep.
Okay.
So you go out of present mode.
Yep.
All right. Sorry for this. Let me get it pulled up. 1 second. And here we go. Let's see if I can get it to work. So Jenny Hatch is a young woman with Down syndrome who went and fought for her rights to have guardianship of herself. I'll let him explain it better than me. Put it up. Oh, I gotta be in present. Hold on, let me move your all's faces. I'm so sorry.
Decision making. My name is Jonathan Martinez. I am the Senior Director for Law and Policy at the
Oh, no.
supported decision making. I'm going to tell you about a friend of mine who makes use of it. On your screen right now is Margaret Hatch. She goes by Jenny. When I met Jenny, she was 29 years old. Jenny will tell you she's a high school graduate. She'll tell you she was president of her class. She had been working in the same job for 5 years at the time, a regular job in the community, making regular wages, paying regular taxes. She had a social life, a church she went to, friends she saw. She was politically active. She was known in her community, and her community knew her. Until she got in a car accident. Because shortly after Jenny got in a car accident, because she has Down syndrome, she was placed under a guardianship. On your screen right now is language from the guardianship order. I'm not going to bore you with the entire order, but what I can tell you is that there were 4 separate paragraphs in that order saying the guardians could choose where Jenny lived. Jenny had lived in her own apartment before the accident, her own apartment, but they could choose where she lived, including an institution. There were 3 paragraphs saying that the guardians could choose what health care she got or whether she even got health care. But what's on your screen is the last paragraph in that order. Take a look at it. It says that the guardians can decide who Jenny sees, what kind of health care she gets, what kind of support she gets, what kind of education she gets, what kind of therapeutic treatment she gets, and where she lives. Looking at that language, Jenny Hatch have any rights left? Was Jenny Hatch a citizen? Remember when we started these sessions, I asked you, what was your favorite right? What rights were most important to you? Did Jenny have any rights left? Why? Well, it was because a psychologist examined her and found that Jenny needs help. In fact, that's a quote. The psychologist said, Jenny is going to need assistance to make health care decisions regarding her health care, her living arrangements, and quote, such like that. She will need someone to guide her and give her assistance. When I met Jenny, I looked at her records, and you know what? I realized that psychologist was 100% right. Jenny does need assistance to understand legal issues. She absolutely needs assistance to understand medical issues and monetary issues and in her day-to-day life. You know what that makes her? It makes Jenny Hatch a person. Ain't we all Jenny Hatch? Is there anyone watching this video who makes every decision for themselves without getting help, without ever doing research, without getting advice? If there is, please contact me off list. I would love to get some help from you. What we had to do was we had to show a judge who, like everyone else, was used to 2,000 years of history that said when a person with a disability needs help doing something, they must not be able to do anything. We need to show that judge that there's another way, that Jenny is just like all of us, that we all need a little bit of help. And on your screen is the way we did it. On your screen is the definition of supported decision-making. Now, I'm not looking at the screen right now. I can do this from memory. Supported decision-making is a recognized alternative to guardianship where people with disabilities use trusted friends, family members, and associates to help them understand the situations and choices they face so they can make their own decisions without the need for a guardian. It's a lot of words, wasn't it? A lot of words, and I knew that by heart because I wrote them. I was an idiot when I wrote that. I mean, poor Dr. Blank, who had to be the lead author of that, had to associate himself with my language, where what I should have said to that judge was, how do you make decisions? What do you do? What do you do when the doctor speaks jargon at you? When the doctor says you've got a subluxation in your cervical brachial area that we can treat conservatively with a course of anti-inflammatories or aggressively with intervention, and you say, huh? And the doctor goes, you got an owie in your neck. Would you like Motrin or surgery? And when you hear that, you say to yourself, I get it now. I can make a decision. When I go to the auto mechanic and the auto mechanic says, John, you got a problem. You must have a leak because your headlight fluids are quart low and your muffler bearings are rattling around so fierce. And it's going to cost $1,000 to fix. And I go to my friend, and my friend knows about cars. I don't. And I say, Jeff, what should I do? It's $1,000, man. I love this car. Should I get it fixed? Should I put the money toward a new car? And Jeff goes, dude, there's no such thing as headlight fluid and muffler bearings. You're getting ripped off. And I said, thank you. I understand. Because that's what we do. That's what people do. When they don't understand something, they get help. You go to Google, you go to a friend, you go to an expert, and you ask questions. You say, help me out here because I don't understand. And when you do that, you're being smart. You're being wise. You're being judicious and getting a second opinion. When Jenny Hatch does it, when a person with disabilities does it, society thinks they're weak. Because when Jenny Hatch says, I don't understand something, help me out here, well, society assumes that because you need help doing something, you must not be able to do anything. And for 2,000 years, the response has been to take away the right to do everything. So supported decision-making, after all those words, is just a fancy way to say getting help when you need it, just like you and I do. Thank you for joining us for this session. In the next session, we'll talk more about Jenny's case and the way that she.
I love how he presents that and paints that picture. And I'm actually, let me get back to where we were. Let me move this. Sorry, I've got to move these ribbons all around. I feel like I might, should we watch the second one, Stephanie, you think? I'm trying to be mindful of time.
Yeah, I mean, are you guys okay? I can tell you, I've met Jonathan several times. He is just as powerful in person. And these sessions are all on YouTube.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. You can find them on YouTube. So
Yeah, and if you, well, so when they get this presentation, send it like a PDF, they can get to the link, and if you look on the right-hand side,
Yes.
all of these chapters are on here, so you could go through all of them to learn more. I just picked out the really good ones, or what I felt was very good for this.
Back to our introduction and guide to supported decision-making. My name is Jonathan Martinez. I am the Senior Director for Law and Policy at the Burton Blatt Institute of Syracuse University. In this session, we're going to talk more about the Justice for Jenny case, about how Jenny uses supported decision-making and how her case wound up and what her case can tell us about supported decision-making and the way that we can move forward. The last session, I told you what supported decision-making is, a fancy phrase for getting help when we need it, for getting assistance understanding the choices we have to make so we can make our best choices. And you and I do that every single day. And just like you and me, Jenny did too. We found out that years before, Jenny had signed a power of attorney, like a 40-page document with all kinds of technical terms in it. And we asked, if you think Jenny can't make decisions, how in the world did she sign a power of attorney? And this was the answer. We explained it to her. We took the time. The attorney took the time. We gave her the opportunity to ask questions. We gave her explanations of the terms. And it was not until we and the attorney were 100% sure that she understood the document that we agreed she should sign it. And we saw that Jenny had consented to surgery after her car accident and said, if Jenny can't make decisions, how in the world did she consent to surgery? And we were told the doctor explained it to her, and we explained it to her. Jenny has a little fear of needles. So we said, Jenny, there'll only be one needle, and when you wake up, it'll be gone, and you'll feel better. And the doctor said what they would be doing. And then Jenny understood, and she signed the paper herself. We asked her Medicaid coordinator, how could Jenny be involved in her Medicaid plan of care if she can't make decisions? And we were told we practice person-centered planning. So every page we went over it with her, and we did not go to the next page until we were convinced that she understood the last page. And time after time and decision after decision, doing applications for Medicaid and applications for paratransit and assigning the right to receive records, time after time, we heard that Jenny had been explained the decision she had to make and what she was facing. And when she understood it, she made the decision. Jenny used supported decision-making. So after 6 days of trial, where people came from around the country to support Jenny, where people argued that Jenny is using supported decision-making, she does not need a guardian, there was a final argument. And I was Jenny's attorney, and I got to do what all attorneys want to do, which is wave our arms for 45 minutes and pound the table and plead. And the judge said, I'll be back in 15 minutes. He came back an hour later. And during that hour, I was telling Jenny, we're going to lose. Prepare yourself. This is a difficult case, but we're going to keep fighting, and you are strong, and we can get through this, and you can get through this. And Jenny kept saying, he's going to send me home. He's going to send me home. I said, Jenny, you just keep saying that. And the judge came back on. He started reading his order. And the first part of the order was all about why Jenny needs a guardian. At that point, I've got my arm on her shoulder, and I'm saying, Jenny, you can fight your way through this, and we can get through this. And she said, he's sending me home. And then the judge said this word. He said, however. And there is no lawyer in the world who wants to be on the wrong side of however, but thank God we were on the right side. So what the judge said is, yes, Jenny, you need a guardian over two things and two things only, medical care and safety issues. So here's what was going to happen. I'm going to make the guardians the people who you want to be, the people who you want to live with. Jenny wanted to live with friends. And her friends came to court to support her, to say, they spent their own money on their own attorney, to say, that Jenny doesn't need a guardian, but if she does need one, if you think she should need one, let it be us, because we're the ones who'll support her. And the judge said, you two, Kelly Morris, Jim Talbert, you will be her guardians for 1 year, 1 year only. And after that 1 year, the guardianship will be over. And that guardianship has been over since August of 2014. But for that 1 year, the judge said, your job, guardians, is to assist Jenny in making her own decisions. Your job is to help Jenny use supported decision makings, because the job of the guardian is not to make decisions instead of the person, but to make the decisions the person would make, to make decisions with the person. And what that means is what you see on your screen behind me. Jenny got justice that day. And that's my favorite picture in the whole wide world. That's Jenny in front. Look at her. She's going home. She's been in a group home for almost a year. And that's her right there, smile on the face of someone who's been told you can go home today. And that's me behind her in soft focus. I've never looked better. The question that this case asks, Jenny's case begs this question. Why did Jenny get justice? Well, the easy answer, the tempting answer is because she's awesome, and she is. But that's not the right answer. Because Jenny is awesome, but here's the thing. All Jenny wanted to do was live her life. She was living a regular life in her own apartment with her own job, with her own social life. Jenny, there's nothing special about the life she wanted to live. We hear all the time a phrase called inspiration porn, about people with disabilities being treated like they're special when they do things everyone else does. It's not Jenny Hatch. Jenny wanted to live her own life the way she had been living. So there was nothing special there. The one thing that was truly set her apart was that she didn't give up. She was told time and again, get used to your new life, and she wouldn't. And what we know is that most people denied their right to make choices will give up. Jenny Hatch never did. And that's one of the reasons she got justice. But there's other reasons, and I'm afraid it makes me sad to say far more important reasons. It was because she had a ton of help. She had friends who I told you came and supported her and spent their own money on their own lawyer. I was Jenny's lawyer. They had to get their own lawyer to fight. She had experts come from around the country and submit briefs from around the country saying why she should have the opportunity to make her own decisions. She is incredibly telegenic, so the media loved her, and she had a judge who listened and learned. You know what that means? It means she got lucky. It means Jenny Hatch got lucky. If you take away any of those things, and she's in that group home right now. I told you before, there's 1 million more people under guardianship today than there were 20 years ago. You know what that means? It means there's a whole lot of Jennys and not a whole lot of justice. Thank you for joining us. In the next session, we're going to talk about where we go from here.
Powerful story. Have you guys, anybody heard her story before tonight besides Stephanie? Joanna probably. So I think, I think it's very important that, you know, definitely if you're interested, watch the rest of those. But I think her story is unique in the sense that it had so much publicity with it, but it just shows when he said she just wanted to do normal life. She just wanted to live the life she had, and because she looked a certain way and had a disability, people made false assumptions about her ability to take care of and make decisions for herself. And so taking that time and making sure our family members or friends have people in their lives that are vested and will help them in this process and alongside you. So alternatives to a guardianship. Basically, parents or guardians consider areas of an individual's life and decisions involved in those pieces. And it's really important if you have a care coordinator, someone you work with like Tawana or the ARC, or someone that's involved in your planning, like coming around the table, looking at strengths and needs of that individual and determine if they require all decisions to be made for them, or are there parts of their lives that they can be in control of. And Tawana or Stephanie, if you want to add anything, please do. Oh, you just muted.
I think in the other sections where we was talking about where in the order is right after this, you know, the limited guardianship should be considered. And as families fill out the paperwork, the limited guardianship literally goes through each section of the little, even if it's no more than $10, you can actually put that on their limited guardianship. You can actually just map out their limited guardianship. So if anybody is very interested in actually seeing that document, it's a step below supported decision making. It's a step below these. It's right before you get to full guardianship, but it does map out court-wise how much control that person has of their life, but it gives them that control. They may not can handle $1,000, but they can handle $50. And you can actually put that on the limited guardianship paperwork.
Very cool.
And we're going to also, along with the PowerPoint, send you guardianship questionnaire and other tools that you can use to help think through making these decisions. And the guardianship questionnaire is really good for determining limited guardianship and what
Absolutely.
areas that you feel like they might be able to make decisions.
I would like that document Shawana was talking about too, by the way. So, so we know that all individuals have will and preferences, right? Things they like, things that they don't like. Providing individual with supports and accommodations necessary to make decisions. Support person explaining when needed the issues, possible choices and consequences for those choices. And then also being mindful to interpret signs of preferences in the individual. If they don't have the words, but you can tell by their body language or however, because you know them better than anybody else, to help interpret what their will is in the situation. Build in natural safeguards, family, community members, people that they're already invested in their life, professionals, teachers, who can be in their circle that can be entrusted. Because if it's just you, what happens when you're not here?
Absolutely.
So think about that. Sometimes our kids that have the most significant disabilities, unfortunately, have the smallest circle. And so because their exposure to things sometimes is less, their
Right.
home, right?
Right.
We put this bubble
Right.
around them, and we just have to make sure we are laying that foundation, because I want to live forever, but if I figure something else out, I will not. So let me go to the next slide. Supporting decision-making is something we do every day. You have loved ones, family members that are, whether they're biologically yours or not, we support people around us every day in making decisions. Something that recognizes a person's abilities and their limitations, their wants and their needs, personal choices and preferences. So keeping that at the forefront, that's a big piece of this supported decision-making model. Requires accepting that people with disabilities and older adults have the right to make their own decisions. This whole idea of supported decision making, because of course this process is also used in elder care, right? This guardianship, power of attorney, all those things. But once you have this, then the only question is, what support do they need to make decisions? So if I believe this to be true, what do I need to put into practice? What do I need to teach my loved one so that they can make decisions? Key components: making a decision with a person rather than for them. Making sure we think about their wants and needs, respecting that the person is the final decision maker. Okay. You can do this formally or informally, and understanding that making a bad decision does not mean you can't make any decisions. And I kind of said that earlier. I saw a panel speak at one of the ARC conferences years ago now. It was about this topic. And there was a young adult on the stage who was quadriplegic, non-speaking, used voice output. I think she spoke some. She was an adaptive curriculum kid, 100%. And her mom had not taken 100% guardianship over her. And I'm ashamed to say at first that really shocked me. And I was kind of like, oh, really? But they gave all these beautiful examples of decisions she had made with support that far exceeded the mom's expectation and were better than the mom would have made. And so we make a lot of false assumptions on someone's ability based on how they look, based on our experiences. And by giving her that power, she had these amazing experiences in her life that she wouldn't have had if someone had had full guardianship of her. So just wanted to give that. So limited guardianship is when the adult ward retains some rights that would otherwise be lost in full guardianship. And North Carolina encourages clerks to consider limited guardianship tailored to that person. Individualized, right? You've heard that before, gone through the school system. Here are some examples of, and maybe Stephanie or Tawana, do you want to explain these?
Yeah.
Stephanie, it's up to you.
Yep. Okay. So durable power of attorney, really a general or durable power of attorney would be over financial issues. And then you've got a healthcare power of attorney for making any health decisions. Just in our circumstance, we did one of each for my son Sam. And the difference with the power of attorney is, just like Jonathan explained a bit ago, is instead of going to court and deeming your loved one incompetent, they actually are giving you permission to help them make decisions. So you do have to go, well, you can really do these on like Legal Zoom. You can pull them off based on the state. I think both of them together are around $150. I did go to an attorney to do it because you do have to have them filed at the clerk of court. And my attorney ended up filing those for me. So it was worth an extra $50 to have that done.
You can also file them on your own downtown. You can actually file them on your own. It's really kind of, I mean, they walk you through it kind of.
Well, that's
you
what
fill it out. You can walk. They can walk you through it.
Yeah, you can do it, but I didn't want to. So
Okay, you just didn't physically.
it was worth it to me to not have to go to the courthouse. So,
so I do them. I can notarize them, and I can do the basis of them, and kind of walk families through the basic healthcare power of attorney and notarize them. Whether or not they're filed at a courthouse, I'm not an attorney, but I can change some little tips. Whether or not they're filed or not, they're still, once they're notarized, they do become a kind of a legal document. It depends on what actual agency that will take them versus the other. Like I'm the healthcare power for my dad. Somebody notarized mine. I gave it to the hospital. They didn't ask me was it filed at the courthouse. They don't. Someone will ask you depending on what the circumstances is. So it's just, I mean, that one is can be tricky. Also, I want to add right behind that one that if you don't want to be so technical, even with the healthcare, the medical or whatever, the medical day-to-day consent forms are just fine. When you go in there to take your kid to the doctor, make sure that your kid signs a consent form saying that you ask them that you can talk to the doctors about their medical things.
Well,
I do it all the time with my dad.
And I do that even with the healthcare power of attorney. Every year I signed an updated HIPAA form that allows, Sam is basically saying I can be his advocate in the doctor's office.
I do it for my dad at every single practice, medical, the pharmacy. I do it everywhere I go because he does not check on this stuff. And so I can actually call there without them asking me, do I have consent to talk to you?
So then the representative payee is really under Social Security, and Social Security does not even recognize guardianship. You have to go and become or apply to become a representative payee for their Social Security benefits. Bank accounts, joint bank accounts are lovely. We have, for Sam, we've got his rep payee account, but then we also have, Steve has a joint checking account with Sam, and so we split it that way. Special needs trust, and then the home health care, personal care assistance or other alternatives.
Let me piggyback on that one too. With the representative payee, can you go back with the representative payee stuff with the Social Security? If you are going to do guardianship and then apply, most of the time when when they're applying for Social Security or applying for guardianship, or if you're gonna go that route, make sure that you do guardianship before you do their disability and Social Security, because they will ask for it in those cases. If that person has not ever applied for Social Security, they will ask the guardian. So applying for Social Security, they will ask for it. Representative payee, they do not.
And then these are just like I guess we're going least to highest or whatever hierarchy, but support people may not be able to manage all details of their lives without a guardian. If they have a trusted family member, social support, community support, for instance, that can help them with budgeting or medication, those types of things. And then Supported decision-making for some individuals, guardianship can be avoided by developing a network of trusted individuals to provide that support and assist in decision-making. Those are just some options. So Tawana, I will defer to you on a lot of this. I just know from the school side, we really encourage when I was in the public school system, I encouraged my teachers to have these conversations early. This shouldn't be a conversation at the IEP meeting when they're turning 17. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a conversation after they turn 18 when the parent can't get into the doctor with the child.
Right.
So being aware of that, and that it's formally has to really begin about that 17 and a half, right?
So 17 and a half, you can actually apply. That's
Right.
why I put that in there. You can actually apply. So, the school system start to talk about it in the IEP at 17 and a half. You can actually apply at 17.
And, COVID put a damper on some of the, there was a lot of backlog stuff. I'm sure we're on the other side. But it's good to know that. And it definitely should be talked about. Transition planning should be talked about at 14 in your IEP meetings with your school system.
Yes, you really should.
If not before. Supported decision-making can start in elementary school, to be honest. But
Yeah.
This is linked in your PowerPoint. These are some questionnaires you could start using to ask yourself kind of, where are we in this? What do I think my family member requires or needs? But the one thing I'll let Tawana kind of explain this process if she wants to.
That actual questionnaire is a piece of the packet that you need to put in there. I can actually give you a copy of all the actual documents if you're going to do it on your own. I help families do it on their own so they don't have to get a hefty bill if they want to use that money to do some power of attorney stuff, or if they want to use that money for other things. You can actually file a petition on your own. That is one of the documents. That questionnaire is one of the documents that's actually in your packet that you put together. And if anybody's interested, I can give you the other documents. So once you get on that site that Beth just popped up, it's over in the keywords. You can actually type in the document form numbers and you can print the forms. And I actually have a mock of how to fill out the form. I have a little Jane Doe mock. Yeah. So I'll mock the form.
An example.
So once you file the petition, get all the documents together, you can actually go to the courthouse at 17 and a half to special proceedings, and you can take your documents. They will not help you at the desk if you don't have it together. So you may want to ask, me or somebody else before you get there, because they are not allowed by law to help you. I am not either. I'm not a lawyer. I mean, I have to say that all the time. I don't know. I think I am.
I say it all the time too. I just stayed at a Holiday Inn last night.
I'm not a lawyer. I didn't give you the advice. So, but they are very used to me showing up at that desk giving people advice. But and then once you petition at the courthouse, they will assign you a guardian ad litem. That person is just for your individual that you're filing the petition, your ward. And that person actually verifies everything that you're saying. That includes psychologicals, that include documents, that include plan, everything and they verify all the information that you provided in the documents. Then your ward is actually served them documents saying that you filed a petition to become their guardian. So a sheriff actually comes out and serves them the petition that you filed, and anybody else that you are have an interest in it. What I will do and what I will say is there's one of my favorite forms in this pack is Stephanie's is the questionnaire. Mine is the certificate of service. And the certificate of service is a form that also lists any interest parties that are interested in your child's well-being. I have seen a mama die one week, the next 3 months the daddy died. And I've seen parents die with no guardian. Sometimes the court system can go back to that old file and see who were people of interest that was interested in being your child's guardian in that last position and help them. I mean, I've located an uncle in the parking lot, and brought him in court because the dad wanted him to be a guardian. Want him to be the guardian. So those things are very important to put on those documents. People that you would want to be your child's guardian or interested in your child's well-being. So the court will reach out. If they do a very good job, they will reach out. Some of them will reach out. The hearing is informal. It's usually a little small room with everybody that's interested in there. And then it's done. And once you go down to the clerk, they give you your guardianship papers the same day. You're completely done. You can do this whole process probably take you 2 hours with the court and all.
And from the teacher perspective, from the mom perspective, you know, one thing I camp on is the person being served, having that conversation with the ward, who potential ward, so that they're prepared. You have some that love police and they might be super excited to get served. And they have some that might be terrified. They might not understand what's going on. So it's very important, again, that you have these conversations with the individual that is at the heart of this. I know that seems probably natural to most of you on here. But unfortunately, it doesn't. Sometimes that falls off the radar. And same for being a part of that hearing. They're going to have to be in that room, right, Joanna?
Absolutely,
Hear
absolutely.
all the things
And I have had literally have to leave court and have somebody to go get a ward because their guardian ad litem says you don't need to bring them. The judge should always see the ward. The judges they tell you they always should see the ward. And any judge or any guardian ad litem to tell you they shouldn't see the ward is not accurate. I make families bring the person so the judge can see them. And also to piggyback off your sheriff department thing, I'm a huge advocate. I don't think you can advocate for people you don't know. So I can tell you which one of my wards that you cannot serve papers on. I do special requests on how you should serve those papers. I have parents to bring them with them, and we walk up to the sheriff department all friendly and let them serve them to them right then and not show up at their house. I've done so many creative ways. So please ask things before you have your ward in situations where it's not in the best interest of them.
These are things, I guess, Tawana, that piggyback on what you were saying.
Oh yes, again, you know, the people that you said should be involved, the petitioner, the person that's filing, the ward should always be present during the proceeding, the proposed guardians or people that are interested. I have had somebody for guardianship and they're the petitioner saying that they want guardian, and a ton of other people show up, you know what I mean, that want to be the guardian. And we have to hash that out and decide who's the best in the best interest of that person. And anybody that's supporting the ward, just like in Jenny's case, where there were people in the audience that can support her decision to be her own guardian.
Sorry, do you see this chat? They want somebody asked for the forms to be separate than the PowerPoint. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
I just got the chat box. Okay, let me get back to this. Oh, okay, and so I did a whole thing on supported decision making as one of my, or like helping to teach people to make decisions, right? One of my favorite quotes are people who make decisions are better able to make decisions. So starting that young, I know, Anne, you were in it. I don't know who else was in it last month, but these are some resources I felt were still valid to keep in there. We're not going to camp on how you help make those decisions, but or help people make decisions, but should be a part of your IEP process, should be a part of your goal writing. If you have innovations waiver, should be a part of your everyday, like starting to loosen that rope a little bit, right? And allow them to make some decisions and help them problem solve and talk through consequences if they do or don't make a decision you think they should make.
And I think that any parent that is actually thinking about, you know, that hasn't made a decision to be a guardian or that they really should get some more information on supported decision making. That is a whole vibe now. And there are, and on the other end of guardianship, I can expand out a little bit on, how that actual process and things that you need to be doing with that area. But supported decision making is a very good, support system for individuals.
And there's some of the stuff to learn more about that is linked in here. I need to check this Google folder, Stephanie, before you send it out. Let me make sure that's still active. But there's also another document on strengths and needs, like to have those conversations, like what is my child able to do? What are their strengths, what are their needs? And there's so much, we talked about this, I think in the last seminar, but like, there's so many tools out there now that weren't out there 10 years ago. Like, right. Schedules that alert on your phone, pill dispensers that come out at a certain time. I mean, there are so many tools now that help bridge that gap and modify situations, whether it be independent living or what have you, that make it more accessible for our individuals that have more impacted disability areas. So it should never be based, just like a classroom setting should never be based on IQ. This should not be
Right.
based on that either. That is one
Right.
data point. And
Right.
so
Right.
anyhow, I think that's the last
I
slide.
had a situation, and I was talking, I don't think I may have told y'all this one before, but I had an individual, and his was more around, I mean, he was pretty high functioning for one. Again, I'm one of those people that, when I get to know my clients, I get to know them. And I was really fighting for him to make his own, become his own guardian, or at least limited guardianship. Well, I was actually fighting with him and his parents because they were older, and they, was pretty authoritarian, and they just wanted to tell him when to go to bed, when to get up, when to, those type of things. He can't stay up that late, Tawana, and he can't do these things. I said, well, how about we encourage him not to do those things instead of just telling him? So I went to court for his guardianship here, and let's get back to the IQ. I was fighting so hard that they ordered a court psychological. And I'm fighting with these big lawyers that work at Oxford and Marty with the big signs, and these guys was in there, and they was pounding me from Saturday. They started on Sunday. So, and they just kept going on about why they felt like, and why did I think that he could be his own guardian? Because I knew him for one. And so they went on and on and on. So we got to court. They put me on the stand. I mean, they ringed me for like an hour, and they had already got their little psychological, and they said, well, his IQ says this, and you still think he can be his own guardian? I said, yes. And so I could see that the lawyer was getting a little frustrated with me, and he looked at his desk, and he came back, and he turned around, looked at me again, and he said, I have one more question for her before she gets off the stand. And he stood there and he said to me, well, he can barely read, he can barely write, his IQ is this, and you still think he's his guardian. So I have these questions. So if he was stranded on a deserted island, how would he get off? I turned around and said, how would you get off? And he said, excuse me. I said, well, how would you get off, Mr. Lawyer guy? That probably has no survival skills. I can guarantee you my client has better survival skills than you. And he said, excuse me. I said, I can guarantee you he has better survival skills than you. And I said, and what in the world are we reading and writing on a deserted island anyway? He said, I give up. I give up. And he turns around. Well, just know he is his own guardian now. And when I walked out of there, the lawyer said, next time I need to fight about something, I believe I'm gonna bring you to court with me. I said, come on, because I'm up for a fight. But those IQs mean nothing on a deserted island.
Mm-hmm. And it's just one point, and we have lots of people presume competence is a whole nother lecture I can get.
Absolutely.
The least dangerous assumption is to assume that someone can, until we've got enough data to show that they really can't. And that I'm a firm believer in that. So
absolutely.
Any questions for us? It's a lot of information, but I want to open that up if there's questions, and we'll go from there. And if there's not, I also want to be really clear that I'm not saying one's better than the other. I just want to make sure everybody on this call knows that there are options,
Absolutely.
right? So that you know to explore those. And if full guardianship is the best option for you and your family member, awesome. Still have support in place. So sorry, Allison, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I guess our concern, which I think in our situation, we probably will have to do full guardianship. And we're concerned that our son is not going to be able to go to the courtroom like with us. And he does have to be present during that.
He does not technically have to be present.
Okay.
And sometimes in most cases, you really do have to work with the court system, depending on which one you are in, to make sure that they don't ask for that presence. And it depends on sometimes the judge. Most of you, and not in your, I don't know your particular case, but you do have cases where this is why people want to see people. Like we do have the Jennies, and we do have these cases that people need to be seen, because families will go and try to get guardianship of elderly people, of people with disabilities. Again, guardianship can be taken advantage of.
Hey, but Allison, when you meet with the guardian ad litem, that will be an opportunity to request that Jet not go. It isn't a guarantee, and
It ain't a guarantee. It's not a
Tawana
guarantee. It
said-
depends on who is
Yeah.
there. And when you meet with the guardian ad litem, they need to meet with you, especially in your case. So some of these are pro bono lawyers, and they are just, and that's not the everyday thing unless you hire one. I wouldn't advise you to hire one. Your child is indigent. You get this for free if you just mark the indigent box. It's a little small box. I can show you where it's at, but I would not hire a lawyer for that purpose. These lawyers are pro bono, but they will, they need to come out to see you. They be in such a hurry. Sometimes they don't even know, they don't check with your kid. They don't do any of that. They don't do any of the preliminary work that they supposed to. So you need to make sure they're calling you and they're doing it.
And I think
Okay.
from someone that doesn't know your child or know the situation or young adult, being able to eloquently or explain why you feel like they shouldn't be present, because but what is it? Are you afraid they're not going to be able to handle what's being said? Are you afraid they're going to be upset? Are you afraid? What is the reasoning behind it so that you can explain that?
Right,
I
right,
feel
right.
like it would be
right.
important.
I had one probably a couple years ago. He could not. He was so paranoid of cops that the fight to get him in there would have him locked up. So it took a lot. It took me, and he was his own guardian when I got him, and we was taking him out of a psych ward. So we did a lot for him not to come to court. And that took a lot. So it depends on who you're working with.
Okay.
I've
So
heard.
I'm
I'm sorry, Allison. I've heard that the clerk in High Point is a little bit more friendly than the one in Greensboro. So
okay.
just for food for thought.
Right. And also you can take, and also like I said, I've had guardians like say, don't bring them, and we have to reschedule court because the judges will make us go get them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and yeah. So that's a give or take of how you want to balance that, because they don't have the right to tell you no.
Okay. Do you guys also have I'm not familiar with how to even start the process. Like, is it kind of through our social worker at his school, or do you have information
I can
on
go
that?
through that with you at a later date. I can step you through that process, the paperwork process. I can step you through the paperwork process.
The
Okay.
school really will have nothing to do with it.
Okay.
And they will give you a packet depending on what school you is. I probably maybe up to about 3 years ago, the Randolph County schools had the oldest packet I ever seen in my life. It still had the R word on it. And the documents are on North Carolina's website. So I was like, where did you get this from? And when the parents said, I got it from the courthouse, I said, no, you didn't. So
where is he? Yeah. Where is he in school?
He's at CJ Green.
He's at you should be fine.
I will do Green in January.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually do the step-by-step at Green in January.
And
okay.
When does he turn 18?
February.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, is there like a time frame? Like, do we have to do this by his 18th birthday, or?
No. Well,
He will have guardianship.
He'll be his own guardian when his birthday comes.
For medical issues, that might be good to go ahead and get started, but I can send you all the links, Allison.
Okay, that'd be great.
That's, one example for me is I front loaded my teachers forever and a day. You got to start talking about this. I was at a transition fair about to present in my county, and a mom came up to me and said, can you help me with this? I just called to make an appointment or get my daughter's prescription filled, and they won't talk to me.
Absolutely.
I need to talk about this guardianship. And I said, and her daughter was extended content standards, had seizures, autism, lots of stuff going on. And she said, well, she turned 18 last week. I said, what? Like, where's your teacher been? Like, why hasn't this been started? And she hit a roadblock. They would not talk to her.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
So, and another thing, Stephanie, I mean, I'll send it to, if you can send me her email, I can send you the actual forms to print off and kind of do a
Yeah.
step by step.
Allison.
What I will tell you, Allison, is it's December and I'm actually in court most of the time. So I can tell you February that if you file it tomorrow, which I can probably help you get it filed by the end of the week, to get it filed, you probably won't get on the books to February.
Okay.
Because of the holidays. So when is his birthday? February what?
February 20th.
Okay. I can try to help you get it on the books by February.
Okay. I appreciate that.
I will introduce you on email right after this.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'll try to get you, I'll try to walk you through that. But I'm actually doing CJ Green January the 11th. So I'm gonna do the step by step there.
Okay. Okay. Okay, great.
Each piece of paperwork there.
Okay.
Well, I know
Thank you.
Tim and his family had to hop off. I don't know if anybody else has questions, but hopefully you'll learn something tonight. I'll make sure, let me check that one link, Stephanie, before you send it out, and then we'll
Okay.
send all the documents too.
I do want to mention one more thing, Beth, that I think we didn't discuss in here was there's several types of guardianship. So I don't think we mentioned it on here, even though we talked about limited, which is whatever, but there's guardianship of the person and there's guardianship of the state and a general guardianship. General guardianship is a bonded guardianship, which I have not ever seen anybody do. I mean, most of my families usually do guardian of the person.
Mhm.
And then I do have a couple, because again, I work with on the board with the Corporation of Guardianship, and a lot of them are guardians of the estate. These people have these big estates, they've been in a car accident, and they got these estates that they manage, and it's just a pot of money that they manage. So, but mostly the primary one is guardian of the person. And I'll walk you through that too.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Everybody hopefully good and learned something tonight, or at least food for thought. And you can reach out if you have specific individual questions. I'm sure Stephanie can get in contact with any of us. So
Yes. So please do, if you have any questions. I will get, as soon as Beth confirms the PowerPoint links, then I'll be sending these out to you guys a little bit later. And we have recorded this. So
do anybody on here have a healthcare power of attorney?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a healthcare power of attorney. One of mine in a couple months ago, I don't know if y'all has filed or whatever, but on the side where they have those initials and stuff, that looks like a little box that says you need to have initials. I don't know if your attorneys have talked to y'all about those, but one of mine did not have the initials by this. I think it was disposed. I didn't even know it was on. I didn't pay attention to the box, but it says disposal of remains. Well, my client, somebody died. One of them died, and they didn't have that initial, and they would not give them their family members' remains.
Wow.
It was on their healthcare power of attorney forms. And so I don't know who has a lawyer that they could reach out to, but if y'all would like to, I would like to know that if anybody has a lawyer that they have on tap for that particular thing. But it took me a few minutes to figure this out with the funeral home. So I would like to be able to add it in advising families of that, because it was not a good situation for one of my families, because that box was not checked or initialed.
wow.
Well, that seems as though the attorney didn't do or ask the question.
I don't know if anybody remembered that question on there, or if y'all got that document, look at that one.
I don't. Yeah, I can go look mine up. I'll send you a copy of ours. Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies, it was nice to meet y'all.
Tonight.
It was nice to see y'all nice faces.
Nice to see ya.
Thank
And
you.
Stephanie, I'll check
Nice
that
to meet
after
you.
I get dinner together, and then we'll
Okay.
I'll check that link.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Bye.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.